this evening. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. This is Gabby. And if you'd like to just take a moment to stretch, grab some water, grab a snack for this evening, feel free to do that. And we'll get started right at 5 with some logistics and sort of housekeeping items. Welcome, Hector. It's good to see you.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to those of you joining. This is Gabby. We'll get started shortly here. Thanks for joining us this evening. All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Gabby Magana, one of your co-facilitators for this evening. We're going to go ahead and get started as it's 5 p.m. So welcome and thanks for joining. I'm here today with my colleague and co-facilitator, Laura Martinez, who will be supporting during today's meeting. And we're also joined here today by our community co-host, Hector Olivares from Catholic Charities, who will introduce himself in just a few minutes here. So thank you for joining this evening and for being a part of this process. We're really excited to have this meeting with you all today. And we really look forward to providing you an overview of what you can expect for today. There's ample opportunity in today's meeting to really reflect on the accomplishments that the CSC has had in 2021. But before we get started with diving into the meeting here today, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping items. I know that these are really familiar, but they, of course, help us have a streamlined and organized conversation. So I'm just going to walk you through some of those for tonight. So as always, just a quick reminder about our virtual meeting etiquette. Please make sure that you are muting yourself if you are not speaking so that we can keep a clear sound throughout today's meeting. And please be sure to change your screen name accordingly so that we have a sense of who is joining in today's meeting. And it also helps us for attendance keeping purposes, in particular as it relates to the stipends. To change your name, you can click on the 3 right dots in the upper right-hand corner and select rename, as you can see on the screenshot listed here. For CSC members, we ask that you use the convention CSC-first, last name. And if you're a resident, you can use the convention R-first, last name. Any other participants affiliated with other organizations, such as the Air District or CARB, can use AD or CARB. P for the general public. And if you're affiliated with any other organizations, you can just write your organization name as part of your name as well. If you have any challenges, renaming the host might kind of support you with that, or you can always signal to us in the chat, and anyone here, including members of the facilitation team and the Air District, can support with that this evening. Quickly, just going over this logistical piece around linking your phone audio to your video. One of today's activities is going to involve a couple breakout groups, and to make sure that your audio is synced with your video, if you're joining by phone call in addition to joining by video, we ask that you merge those, and you can look at the settings as you switch to phone audio by selecting the arrow next to the microphone and just indicating some more specificity. When you call in, it gives you some more details that you can follow to make sure that those two are synced. This is really critical for this evening's meeting, just to make sure that all of you is in one breakout room as opposed to split across. So thank you for doing that. And if you have any questions about that, please let us know. We can definitely help you out. We also ask that you please update your screen name. Again, CSC members, reminder to use CSC before your first and last, and residents can use R. And again, same thing with other organizations such as Air District, CARB, or the general public. Reminders about virtual meeting etiquette. So please stay on mute unless you're speaking or planning to speak. If you call in, you can mute and unmute pressing *6 respectively. And similarly, please raise your hand on Zoom to ask a question during the presentation. If you're calling in, you can do this by selecting *9 and then lower again by selecting *9. Residents in the stipend program can stay for at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for a stipend. So that is 90 minutes of today's 2-hour meeting. And then finally, we ask that you please state your name before sharing a comment to allow for a smooth interpretation of our conversation this evening. These are some quick reminders about the ground rules that we've established as a CSC. So just going to provide a quick overview of those once again. The first is to help achieve the meeting goals, to really focus on solutions, opportunities, and a productive dialogue. Letting everybody participate includes stepping up and stepping back, depending on which you tend to do more of. Being civil and respectful of one another. So really emphasizing that in disagreements, that is completely normal, but being respectful, empathetic of other perspectives is really the point here. Staying on point and on time, so really keeping comments brief and to the point. This allows enough time for everybody else to participate in our conversation. Attacking the problem, not the person. So similarly, if there's some disagreements, it's okay to challenge the ideas or the outcomes, but never attack the person. And to really honor every person's humanity and dignity. And then finally, seeking common ground. So building consensus and finding shared values really helps us to achieve the best results here. For today's conversation, we're going to be doing the welcoming piece, which is happening right now. Then, as always, the action items tracker. We have a quarterly air monitoring update happening this month. And then we'll spend about an hour of our time together with some end of the year reflections and planning for 2023. Then we'll sort of conclude our time together with some standing updates, a wrap up on next steps, and public comment. All right, that was a lot. So with that, I want to just kind of pass it on first to our community co-host here, Hector, for some welcoming remarks, and then we'll pass it on to the Air District for additional welcoming remarks.
Okay, well, thank you guys. And thank you for this opportunity to really help co-host this. I think it's really important that you have a local CBO that helps out with this organization and this group. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of my background. I know most of you do know me, but in case those who don't, again, one more time, as you can see it, Hector Olivares. I'm the program manager for the Environmental Justice Program here at Catholic Charities Diocese of Stockton. So for some personal background, I was born and raised in Stockton, grew up in Stockton, currently live in Lodi, but still, of course, deeply involved in my hometown. And I've been working here at Catholic Charities as the program manager for the EJ program for 2 years, actually. But before that, I spent about 3.5 years working for the Women's Center Youth and Family Services here in San Joaquin County, working with the victims of violence, domestic violence, as far as services for them, for homeless youth, for running the domestic violence shelters. So I spent 3.5 years working for them. And then prior to that, 10 years working for the district attorney's office as a victim advocate. So providing services for victims of crime, kind of like social work, but for crime victims, and going out to crime scenes, talking to victims immediately after they happen, assisting them with restraining orders, going to court, accompanying them to court, introducing them to the prosecutors, and kind of just being, the person that guides them through the whole system. So I've had a pretty long experience with working with the community, especially those that are been marginalized, disenfranchised, those who, suffered some of the worst incidences that happened to them. So I still, even though this is a little bit different from my previous background, it's still, as far as working with the community members, working with people that live here in our community, especially those who need the most help. So I really appreciate this work. I really appreciate being involved in the opportunity that Catholic Charities has afforded me and given me. And I really want to keep and continue the work that we've been doing here with this group. I know Jonathan has been one of the leads here, and he's been giving some excellent resources. Jonathan has just been top notch for us. Unfortunately for him, a natural progression is that he moves into a position that allows him to really be in a more higher leadership role. So for that, we applaud him, and we definitely support him in his new position. So I'd like to just say thank you again for the opportunity to be here, and I will be here from now on. Thanks again.
Thank you, Hector, and welcome. And we're very grateful for your collaboration on this over the past month and for your contributions this evening. So looking forward to co-hosting alongside you. With that, I'm just going to hand it over to Jessica for additional welcoming remarks this evening.
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Hector. Welcome, and we feel really fortunate to just have a seamless it feels transition to your role as the primary on the CSC, and we appreciate you taking really what is kind of your first role as the primary as an opportunity to be a co-host today. Just for all of you, I know Gabby framed it, but I think a few of you have jumped on since she started our meeting today. We look forward to today being really a big reflection and a big chance for us to plan for 2023. We have a lot of measures. We've talked about a lot of implementation details. A lot of you are in several subcommittees. And so today is sort of a time to summarize that, but then also work with our great facilitation team to sort of reflect a little bit on all of that work. So we just really look forward to the engagement today. And I just want to thank you all for spending your evening with us. Thanks, Gabby. Thanks, Hector.
Thank you. This is Gabby. I'm going to kick us off with our first agenda item of the evening, which is the review of the action items tracker. And just as a reminder for folks, this is a standard item in our agenda, and it really is an opportunity for us to review those action items and commitments from each meeting, and an opportunity to hear progress and updates around those, which really helps to support transparency and accountability on all parts here. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to walk us through the updates for this month.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and happy November. I'm wondering if I could look to Harder & Company to change the spotlighting while I share my screen here.
You got it.
hopefully you can see my screen now, and you should be seeing our main Stockton page. And from here, I'll go ahead and just click into our running action items. From our last meeting, we just have a handful. We have a couple that are still pending. The ones that are coming out of our most recent meeting that are completed. The first item, Air District will add a meeting to discuss indoor air systems maintenance as part of indoor air and weatherization subcommittee. I believe this request was related to kind of learning more about the weatherization program that San Joaquin County has. And so we are happy to report that the Air District and CARB did meet with San Joaquin County staff to discuss opportunities for partnerships and to offer support for spreading awareness of this program that does exist already in San Joaquin County, the weatherization program. And we'll provide an update at the next indoor air and weatherization subcommittee, which is in November 22nd. The next item, Air District will email RFP details to the CSC and interested residents. And so this item was related to the vegetative barriers and urban greening RFP, and we did email that information out to the CSC and then also the residents that attended the last meeting that were interested. And these next two items here are related to the membership renewal process and getting a new roster up. And we did go ahead and post an updated roster on our website. After I stop sharing my screen, I'll put that link into the chat. And if you all don't mind taking a look and letting us know if there's any discrepancies that you can see on your side.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is Gabby. I'm seeing Mary Elizabeth has their hand raised, so wondering if they might have a question related to the first update you provided.
I'm sorry. Could you slow down?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Mary, for that reminder. Is there any item you want me to go over again?
No, thank you.
And Margot, did you have an additional question or comment?
Yeah, this is Margot. I know, go up on the slide a little bit to the uncompleted, to the pendings. And it just seems, what is our status of pulling together the EV charging stations? It looks like that's been pending for quite a while now.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So there's these two items here that are related to EV charging stations. As a reminder, this CERT measure is open and available for funding, and we have many units that have been funded. And we did at our last outreach subcommittee, we did preview a draft of the social pinpoint, which is a mapping tool. So we shared a draft of that and got some feedback at that last outreach subcommittee. And so we on our side are just kind of fine tuning that map, and hopefully we'll be able to bring an update at the next outreach subcommittee.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if there are any other questions in the chat.
No questions in the chat at this time.
Perfect. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to pop it into the chat throughout the meeting, but otherwise I'll pass it back to Gabby.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to hand it off to Laura to introduce our next agenda item.
Thank you all for getting us started for today's meeting. We'll be transitioning to the quarterly air monitoring update. So this is a regular component of our meetings that happens at least on a quarterly basis. And the Air District uses this time to keep you all informed on the status of air monitoring network implementation. And from time to time, they may request support in identifying potential locations for air monitors as well. So yeah, during this time, feel free to ask questions at any time of their presentation, discussion. So I'll pass it off to the Air District.
All right, thank you, Laura. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for the presentation, and then Mohammed and Cole will be giving the presentation. So let me get that started here. All right, can you see my screen, the presentation here?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, Mohammed, go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Community Air Monitoring Quarterly Update for Stockton. My name is Mohammed Mian, and I am the lead specialist for the AB617 Stockton Community Air Monitoring Program. I am responsible for maintenance of equipment located in Stockton so that we can provide real-time, accurate air quality data to you and the community. Earlier today, I was in Stockton performing said regular maintenance. Today, we will be going over the following: status of the community air monitoring plan implementation, review of collected air monitoring data, after which we will open the floor for any questions, comments, and recommendations. This map shows the planned Stockton Community Air Monitoring Program's monitor deployment locations and boundary. We currently have 6 sites online, including the CARB monitoring site. Out of the 6 sites, 2 have compact monitoring systems which monitor for black carbon, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, nitrogen oxide, volatile organic compounds, and real-time PM2.5 monitors. These compact monitors are located at Cal Water Tank, which is on the street El Dorado and Clay Street, Zone C, and Stockton Fairgrounds, which is Zone G. 3 sites have real-time PM2.5 monitors located at Stockton Hagen Museum, Zone A, Cal Water Office, Zone D, Little Manila Center, which is a temporary site, Zone F. The CARB site is located at University Park and monitors for PM2.5, PM10, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, and toxics. This is shown in Zone C on the map. Currently, we are still waiting on approval for a further 3 sites. One for the deployment of the air monitoring trailer at Boggs Track Community, Zone B. The second one for deployment of a real-time PM2.5 monitor at Van Buskirk Park, Zone E. Third, we are waiting on approval from Taft Community, Zone F, for moving the monitor located at Little Manila Center to that location. An ongoing volatile organic compound study has been performed at the Little Manila Center. However, since the beginning of September, this study has been relocated to the Hagen Museum site in Zone A. Data from this study will be provided in the next update.
And I just wanted to just add a few more additional notes on this one for the little schoolyard projects here. We do have a contractor. We've selected a contractor for that. Edible schoolyard is agreeable with the location and operation of the air monitor there. So the only thing that we're waiting for is approval from Port of Stockton. And as the next one in Zone E, Van Buskirk. So in this zone, we've been trying multiple locations, both at Conway Homes, working with the Housing Authority of the County of San Joaquin, and also at KIPP School. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, they've both denied our requests on there. So now we're working with Van Buskirk, and the latest information that we have from them is they have a lot of projects that they're dealing with right now, and they need to get all of their staff to have this discussion. So we're still just waiting for their response on that. And then with the Taft Community Center, we were working with the San Joaquin County property manager. And at the time, for quite a few months now, they've been waiting to put the board item together and to get it to the board. But just recently, that property manager has changed positions. So now we have a new property manager there, and we've been communicating with that person, but haven't really received any response back onto that. So it's still definitely a challenge in reaching out to them on that. If any of you have any other connections to the Taft Community Center, please let us know and see if we can gain some additional traction into that location. But in the meantime, we're fortunate to have Little Manila Center within that zone, and we're still monitoring PM2.5 right there at this time. All right, Mohammed, yeah, go ahead for the next one. Yeah.
If you can, in this slide, we can see 2 of our monitoring systems which are deployed in the Stockton community. On the left is a real-time monitor that measures for PM2.5. On the right is a compact air monitoring system which provides real-time data on multiple pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, black carbon, and volatile organic compounds. In this slide, you can see our compact air monitoring system in conjunction with a real-time PM2.5 monitor deployed at the Stockton Cal Water Tank site, located on El Dorado Street and Clay Street in Stockton. On the right is an image of an air monitoring trailer, which is still to be deployed. In this slide, you can see the mobile pollutant monitoring van, which was temporarily deployed at the Little Manila Center until a fixed real-time PM 2.5 monitor could be deployed at the site, which is shown in the image on the right. This image shows the interactive map that is available on our website by following the link right underneath the map. This image of the interactive map does not show the Stockton Fairgrounds site. However, the interactive map on the website has been updated to include the site. Now I will pass it on to Cole, who will go over the data.
Before Cole begins, I do see a hand up from Hector. Is that okay to ask questions during the presentation? Or would you all prefer to give the presentation and then ask questions?
Sure, we can answer the questions.
Okay, perfect. Hector?
Right. So what I'm hearing is some difficulties as far as finding locations. And these locations are for some clarification for the trailers, to put the trailers in a certain location. Is that what you're looking for?
No, not necessarily. So what we have Zone B right here.
Right.
That's still in the works, and I think we're getting pretty close. We got all of these, and we're just awaiting approval from Port of Stockton. And in our last discussion with them, they are still working on that. So I think we have a little bit more traction on this one. The ones that were really that's been very challenging for us is in Zone E here and Zone F. So these are just they're just small PM 2.5 monitors. They're the ones that they're just these units here. So we don't need a whole lot of space, nor do we need anything special for electrical. It's just your basic 110 volt outlet on that. Yeah, so just these two locations here.
So, okay, and then with that location, just for these monitors that you just showed, is there a specific specification that they have to be so far off the ground? Is it just sitting on the ground? Do you want to keep them from being as high as possible, or what's the specifications for them, that best practices to make sure they're monitoring?
Before you answer that, can you flip to the slide, please, that shows what these PM 2.5 monitors look like? Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so one of the main things is that we just need to be away from anything that may block airflow. So like you don't want to be right next to a wall or trees that may potentially block the airflow. The reason why we usually have them on roofs is because of that. And in addition to that, it's prevents any type of vandalism, or it doesn't get in the way of the normal work and operation of that location.
And Chai, can you tell me what kind of like voltage, kind of like the electrical specifications these need?
Yeah, these are just regular 110, your regular 110 volt outlet.
And about how much does this weigh?
The weight of this, I don't know, Mohammed, what do you think? I mean, less than 100 pounds, I would think, right?
They weigh about 80 pounds.
80 pounds?
Okay, not with the base, depending on the site. Like what is pictured right here, we do supply a base for the facility if for stability, if we're not able to tie the unit down to the ground, so that way it doesn't tip over in high wind events. But they're only about 80 pounds.
Okay.
If you can walk on the roof, you can place a monitor there.
Okay, thank you.
Right, looks like yes. Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to share briefly that it's been really great seeing Air District staff show up at our office and doing science and seeing, being able to work alongside the equipment. We do our own community air monitoring work, so it's been a resource to us. And also that, we agreed to a temporary installation because we didn't own the building. And I'm proud and excited to say that that'll be changing really soon. And so if for some reason our zone continues to see trouble with a permanent hosting location, we would be amenable to that. I just know I'm also a little far north in the zone, and that there seemed to be some benefit to stretching southbound to Taft as far as characterizing air across the study area. But good news is we're going to own the building. We'll be able to put things on it that we want to see there. So for your consideration.
So that's great to hear, Matt. And definitely you guys we've been very fortunate to have you guys support us in getting this out there. Otherwise, the Zone E would not have been, we wouldn't have any air quality data coming from there for quite some time. And this was actually one of the first places that we got air monitoring data in this zone. So yeah, huge thank you to you guys, and glad to hear that you guys are purchasing that. So yeah, that is definitely another option that we just keep it there. But you're right. I mean, it's a little bit farther up north, and we're not getting the southern part of it. But if we do get some other location nearby here, like if, for example, like at Van Buskirk Community Center there, that would cover a southern zone, and we may be able to maintain it there. But we'll continue trying and see what we can get. But in the meantime, yeah, we have Little Manila Center to get data out from there. So.
Cool. And I just had one question. If ideally we do relocate to Taft Center, I may still want to buy one of these and operate it. Just the PM sensor. Brad, Chai, Mohammed, what are we talking here? $100 a pop, $500 a pop. It's the maintenance, I know, that's the brutal part.
I think last time we looked, was it around like 20,000?
Oh, that's all for just the PM. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, this is Laura again. I do see a question on the chat from Margot. Will the air monitoring continue even after our 5-year grant completion? And Margot, I also see your hand up, wondering if that was also your question. So just elevating that.
No, that was my question. I mean, we're almost 3 years into our grant, and it feels like we're just really getting it together with the air monitoring. Is this going to continue on beyond the 5 years?
That's a great question. This is Jessica. So the intention, 617 is sort of funny in timing, separate from the SERP. When you're selected for a SERP and certainly a camp, there's sort of a 5-year implementation period, and then what they call this 5-year monitoring, which doesn't necessarily refer to like air quality monitoring, but like, hey, do we still see the benefits 5 years, like throughout these 5 years following SERP implementation? We sort of in budgeting and implementing, I think are looking for this first 5 years to see what to do with the monitoring next. When we first launched 617, I'm just kind of reflecting a little bit, even with you all, I think we had this idyllic concept that we would deploy all these monitors super quickly, and then we would be able to like move them around to other places and then like continue to monitor in different places throughout the 5 years. I think to Margot's point, that's maybe not necessarily the case because it's taken so long, but it will also allow us to get long time frames. All of this is to say that really over the next few years, I think we can decide as a committee, depending on funding, continued funding to continue support running all these monitors, how we continue, whether we keep them at the same place, whether they're still, operating for longevity's sake, or we keep them throughout that 5-year period, I think is part of a discussion we need to have over the next few years. And again, that's a funding thing, because actually to Matt's earlier question, it's not just about buying the monitors, but also having funding to like support staff to maintain them. So that is kind of an interesting piece of it.
So then maybe with the next report, this is quarterly, correct?
That's our intention, but we can do it as often as folks want.
Well, maybe at a reasonable time, maybe not yet, but kind of, if I think as a committee, we would need to have an idea of what the funding would entail. How much is the maintenance and such running, and what are we looking at going forward?
Yeah, we can. So basically, and that's actually an interesting point. Other communities we've shared just generally how our implementation funds have been used for like big, like implementing the SERP, implementing air monitoring. So we can share some of that detail. I think it's a great concept. Thanks, Margot.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the next set of slides.
Sorry, I couldn't find my button. Is CARB ever going to come down and use your data? I mean, they have a whole mandate to use AB617 data, and we're looking at stuff from 2018, and it's still sitting in a spreadsheet. And the idea, and this is on them to be utilizing this data. So, do you know anything about whether or not they're going to use this data?
Well, all of our data is being sent to CARB, and I know
Right.
they're still in the process of putting it all together. So on their website, they're going to have all of our data there. So that includes the data we have coming from here too.
Yeah, I know you're forwarding it. I was just wondering if if you knew more than I did about if they're ever going to use it. And if not, yeah.
Matt,
Some of
can I
them are,
clarify? This is Jess.
yeah.
When you say use
Yeah.
it, do you mean post it or do you mean use it for analysis? Because my understanding
Yeah.
my understanding is that it is available, but you're asking like, are they going to use it for like deeper analysis?
Yeah, it's available, but I'm not qualified to compile and analyze. And they have an obligation in the statute to use the data to inform state policy. And so we just went through a ridiculous round of writing state policy, bereft of 3 years of data being collected statewide. And so they have it. They're just not. I don't know that I think it's an Office of Community Air Protection responsibility. And so I don't know if Scott's here tonight. I've got a small phone, I'm sorry. But this is a question I am asking the Office of Community Air Protection. I just wanted to see if you guys know anything about it.
I think we have Hanjiro. I don't know, Hanjiro, if you're able, and then I'll just, as you're answering, ask Harder and Company to write as an action item to kind of follow up with Matt's question with CARB, for further detail.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. This is Hanjiro from CARB. I'm standing in for Scott tonight, and obviously impossible shoes to fill. But, I wish I had a really good answer for you, and I don't, because, but I'm excited to take this question back. So I think, it's a question that I think we have to take to our Air Quality Planning and Science Division, our AQPSD, who handle, both the AQView development as well as our inventory and special projects, Sharanya's group that has developed some of the inventory products for you. So I think let me take this back and we'll ask about, what are the plans we have for utilizing some of this data?
Yeah, that would be cool. And I think, it might help in that process if 617 communities had maybe a community air monitoring so what session with CARB staff. Like, what did we think we were going to learn? I mean, I know I see Ned in here. Ned's been asking for specific data for several years. And so, if there's a million things you guys could do with this data, and I know you can't do everything with this data. And so my philosophy has always been, if you can't do everything, let's focus on what the community priorities are. And maybe we can help set priorities for first wave analytics around AQView statewide and in designated communities. And you don't have to write that down, because I've already said this to the divisions of the people over there. So Hanjiro, answering the question you already agreed to is more than satisfactory for this venue.
All right, thanks. Okay, any other questions? I think we are ready to move on. All right, Cole, you're up.
Thank you, Chai. My name is Cole Hutton. I'm an air quality specialist with the air quality analysis team here at the Air District. I'm going to be going through the air monitoring data for the last quarter, July through September. And as you can see here, we have a PM2.5 daily average comparison chart. And the main takeaway from this period is that all daily averages were under the 24-hour PM2.5 standard. And that's with periods of long stagnation and wildfire impacts around the valley. So that's a positive thing coming out of this quarter, that all of those daily averages were under that 35 microgram standard. And this is compared to all community sites, as well as University Park, which is the regulatory site within Stockton. And looking back at July 4th, firework impacts on PM2.5, you can see a stark increase in the evening and nighttime hours due to firework impacts across all sites in Stockton. And that's common throughout the valley on July 4th. And I know we've seen this before, but wanted to highlight it once again in this presentation. And then what we have here is another look at our PM2.5 daily average comparison. It's a heat map, which is also found in our quarterly reports. And you can see here for the majority of the period, we had good air quality on the AQI scale, and you can see a copy of the AQI scale down there, as well as on AirNow's website, excuse me. And then you can see in August and September, there are some moderate days due to stagnation and some wildfire impacts. And then what we have here is a PM 2.5 daily average comparison from July 1st to September 30th. In the first column, it's the highest 24-hour average, so the peak 24-hour average throughout each site during that period, along with the quarterly average PM 2.5. And you can see that within the community, these are slightly higher than University Park, which is the regulatory monitor, but there is no violation of the 24-hour standard in this period, as I said previously. The main takeaway from this is we still do not have a full year's data, and due to seasonal changes of PM 2.5, especially in the wintertime, we'll have a good grasp on how the community reacts to all seasons with that full year of data. So we'll keep monitoring and continue to update the group once we identify some more patterns and trends throughout the year. And then here's another look at the data. This is a monthly average of PM 2.5 throughout the Stockton community. And again, all sites were under that 12 microgram PM 2.5 federal annual standard. You can see here at the top, the numbers are the monthly average, along with some variability bars. The bars represent the data variability, which meaning on any given day, that site could be higher or lower. And you can see from July to September, as we get into the winter months, we have more periods of elongated stability, which most of the time increase our PM 2.5 averages. But all in all, good air quality through most of the period. And then this is our VOC speciation summary. These are thresholds, the acute REL and the chronic REL, that short-term impact and long-term impact of these VOC speciations. And the REL is a reference exposure level. It's a health risk metric that represents possible health risks over that threshold. And you can see here that for the acute and chronic, for methanol and acetaldehyde, they are all under that acute and chronic threshold, which is that health risk metric. So that's a good thing to see. And this was moved to Little Manila Center to Hagen Museum on September 3rd. So we have sampling from both Little Manila and Hagen. And if you wanted to take a look at more community air quality data, as well as our quarterly reports, air monitoring data from our vans, and any real-time data as well, you can go to our district AB617 webpage. And then CARB as well has their AQView portal, which you can see air monitoring data from our AB617 communities as well. Thank you. And now we'll address any questions that you have. I already see some in the chat.
Hi, everyone. This is Laura reading Brad's comment. So follow up on Hector's question. Our real-time PM2.5 monitors do break down, so no one part weighs more than 40 pounds. This makes it easy to lift and deploy. Followed by Mary Elizabeth's comment. Daily average smooths the data and may be used as a regulatory measure, but could you also include the daily peaks with daily average? And she also asked, what is the short-term chronic regulatory levels? And I'm not sure if you want to answer that first and then go to Ned's, or if you want me to just read the other comment. I'll go ahead and read it. Ned asked, can you comment on what is happening with the possible action of the EPA to reject our San Joaquin Valley PM2.5's SIP plan? We seem to have very good results. What is the problem? And Matt asked, can you share any insights on NOx measurements at Cal Water Tower on Center? So just verbalizing that for folks watching on live and recording.
Yeah, so if we can start off with Mary Elizabeth on getting the daily peaks. And that's definitely, we have that information in there that we can show next time if that is something that you're interested in seeing. The only reason why we were showing the daily peaks for 4th of July was to kind of highlight what happened during that time period, because we knew that there would be a spike in those daily peaks. But definitely we can, in our next presentations, we can maybe do it may not be as clean, but at least you can kind of see what type of fluctuations happen during the day to get a better understanding of what's going on with that. And then what is short-term chronic regulatory levels?
Can I?
So, well, go ahead, Jess.
I was going to say, and maybe Mary Elizabeth, can you correct me, please, if I'm wrong, but just, I don't know if your second question relates to your first, but you're basically asking we find like the 1 hour max, like the highest peak of the day, not the average. And there is not for these pollutants, which are which have like national standards that are based on 24-hour or annual. There is not a standard for 1 hour, which I think, to further Chai's point, is typically why we don't necessarily show the 1 hour, because it doesn't have an applicable standard by which we like meter ourselves. But we're super happy, I think, to your point, to still show it so you can see throughout the day, like Chai said, how that average is reached. You know, does that mean there's some high peaks and some low peaks throughout the day?
Right, I understood that that none of this data could be used for any kind of regulatory purpose.
Right, and not only regulatory, but then just to even to communicate the, we can communicate as best, and we do this often in our app. So I think this is a great concept that you bring up. We can communicate what the what level it reaches. For example, if for 1 hour it reaches something equivalent to like a moderate or unhealthy for sensitive groups level, we can still indicate that there, although technically those levels are meant more for like a 24-hour period. But I totally see your point, and we've done that for a couple communities. I think it makes sense.
And then the short-term chronic regulatory level was in relation to the VOC, which was also for your short-term acute was, I think, methanol and some other, acetaldehyde. And if you could give, you know, like what might have been the peak on this as well.
Yeah, so
right, I see that this is, you know, this is very high, your OHIHA acute REL. I mean, compared to the max measured for the 24-hour average.
Yeah, the reason why we just have the 24-hour is because the way that this speciation works. And so what happens is we take a container or canister out there, and then we open it up, and it sucks in all the air for a 24-hour period. Then once it gets all of that air, we send it off to a lab, and then the lab evaluates it. And so that's why when we say max 24-hour average, so we get data points for each one of those canisters, and each canister represents a 24-hour average. So we can't really go beyond that part unless we utilize some other instrumentation that might be able to look at some of these. But I think the main thing on this is that we have to take a look at it to see if is there a concern to begin with. So for example, we can see that the threshold is at 21,000 and we're at 55. So it may not be, it doesn't seem to be as much of a concern for us to start digging in that deeply into it.
Okay, thank you.
I can just high level address Ned Liba's question first, just to say we definitely don't have any planning folks on to speak to the high level. But what I think your point is, Ned, is that just in general, when it comes to planning issues, it seems, as we've shown kind of often in here, that that we see relatively good air quality in Stockton. And just to explain just kind of further to folks, because it's been a while since we talked about kind of the regulatory aspect of the district, kind of pre-617. We operate as one air basin. So one air monitoring station that is out of compliance with or at least does not meet the standard per a kind of a list of ways that you have to meet the standard in the Clean Air Act, would mean that the entire basin is not in compliance with that standard. So even when an area complies with it. That said, we don't have the right folks to go into kind of the happening possible action to EPA at this meeting right now.
Can I just ask one quick question, or maybe it's more of an alert, because we got these fairly alarming emails about the SIP being rejected because of complaints from a number of organizations, some of whom are represented here. And it referred to their complaints and a court action, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So I don't, there's representatives of those people in this meeting. And if the EPA is going to kick out this SIP, that's a big deal. So it's just a matter of understanding and education. So maybe at some point we can hear from the people with the concerns as well as the district, because it seems like we've been doing a pretty good job here, and then to have the whole thing thrown out is of concern. So perhaps in the future. Thanks.
Yes, and I'll just kind of to clarify and agree that we'll in the future we'd be happy to have an agenda item where the proper folks are in the room. As of right now, the plan is withdrawn. CARB, it's actually a state plan, and it was withdrawn, not thrown out. So just in case there's folks that want the clarity there. But I agree to your point. We're happy maybe in working with folks at an agenda setting, we can kind of find whether it's space in these meetings or in a regulatory type setting where it's hyper focused for folks that want to have that discussion, because not, of course, that it's not relevant, because I think everything related is relevant, but just to keep in the same vein of prioritizing general CSC interest in setting agenda items. But noted, Ned, and I appreciate the thoughts and the comments.
All right, and the last question here was for insight on NOx measurements. I believe we do have NOx on that at that air pointer, and I think we can show that data. Let's see if we have,
and my interest, my interest behind this community air plan, Chai, is that community air monitoring plans trust but verify the inventories, right? And so that's the sensor that's downwind of, hands down, our categorically largest stationary NOx generating source. And to see it vary from maybe the other sources that are picking up most of the pollution, which is coming from cars, is something I'd like to see over time. Seems like the most likely one downwind in my dispersion model.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's one of the things that we try to do for all this air monitoring, is trying to figure out what's causing that if we're getting any high level readings. And just for example, at the Cal Water Tower, we had some high PM 2.5 readings a while back, and found out that they were doing some construction work there. And so, yeah, definitely we'll keep an eye on that and update the community.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I was looking for the button.
Any other questions?
Like there's no other questions. Are we ready to transition to the next agenda item? Chai, Cole.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good then. All right.
Perfect,
Thank you for all the thank you everyone.
Thank you three for your presentation. Much appreciated. So hi everyone, this is Laura. So now we'll transition to the end of the year reflection and planning for 2023. And this is our bigger chunk of the meeting for today. And I'll give you all a quick run through of how this meeting or how this portion of the meeting will go. So we'll be going out into breakout rooms, and we are breaking you off into 6 or 7 breakout rooms to engage in a conversation with one another about your successes and your challenges in 2022. And you'll have about 6 to 8 minutes in these breakout rooms where you'll be able to share your reflections on these questions, and let me share my screen with you. Those questions, can you all see that? Yes, perfect. And we'll also type that on the chat. And yeah, in these breakout rooms, we ask for you to please have one designated person to do a share out on either your successes or your challenges, because we are going to reconvene all together after our breakout rooms to hear from one another about what you all shared. And then we'll have an implementation planning presentation from the Air District. And once they're done with their presentation, we'll engage in some goal planning for 2023. So that's just a quick run through of how the meeting will go. And I will pass it off to Hector, our community co-host, to give some details about these breakout rooms and how we chose how they're breaking out into. So Hector.
Well, thank you, Laura. So when we were planning this, we were kind of discussing what would we feel would be best to what's going to work well for our group. So initially we were thinking about, community members and CVO members being in one room, and then having some more of the Air District type folk and the other organizational type or the governmental type folk in a different room and not being really involved. And the reasoning behind that would be to making sure that the community members and the members of the CBO members feel free to discuss without having really to worry about offending anybody. Or I know some of us are funded or have some grants under whether it be CARB, Air District. But, in discussing this, we really thought it was, in my opinion, that was really important that we all are together. We all work together to share our ideas across the board. And really, in looking at who's involved in this, I really don't see anyone having any issue really expressing their concern or expressing their ideas. There's no shrieking violence here. You're going to speak up regardless of who else is on the call with you, who else is in the group with you. You guys have very strong opinions and very passionate about this project. So I really didn't see much of an issue. So I personally requested that we all are randomized and mixed together. And that way we have a good selection of people from the community and also people from either CARB or from the Air District. We're able to be more free with our ideas. Like I said, I don't think anybody's going to be intimidated. I think everybody's going to feel free to really kind of speak what they have on their mind and what's in their heart and what some of their issues are and what some of their concerns are. So with that, I'll pass it back to Laura and we will go ahead and start moving into the breakout rooms.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Laura again. Thank you, Hector, for that explanation of our reasoning behind breakout rooms and you really pushing forward, randomizing everyone to have that engaged conversation. Yeah, right now, Gabby will send you off into breakout rooms. And before she does that, I do want to let everyone know that you do not have to take notes for this portion of the meeting. It's conversational, so just make sure you're engaging with one another and have someone chosen to share out afterwards. That would be super appreciated. So yeah, Gabby, if you can send folks out to breakout rooms unless there are any questions before for me.
All right, opening the rooms now.
Gabby, it does look like Dr. Eugene Farrell is on here. Is there any way to get him into a breakout room since he is on the phone?
Yeah, Dr. Eugene, did you see anything pop up on your screen?
Now, which one of the rooms that I'm in?
Yeah, did you see a notification to join? Something should pop up. Are you seeing anything?
Yeah, it says John.
Oh,
I think I accidentally moved him to room 6, Gabby.
that's okay. It looks like they haven't joined yet.
Okay. 5:59, sending a message that they're halfway, or at 6.
Yeah, 6:05. I'll let them know that we'll reconvene as a group at 6:05.
Thank you.
Do you see Dr. Eugene twice?
I do, yeah.
When you said John, okay.
Yeah, are you seeing the notification, Dr. Eugene? I think when they freeze, they might actually be moving in. But then I don't know if they get moved out. We can also have a reflection with them.
Yeah,
No
that works for
one-on-one.
me.
Dr. Eugene, it looks like you might be having trouble joining. Did you just want to reflect with us on some of these questions?
Okay, yeah, I'm having problems. When I punched the joint, it just cut me completely off.
Yeah, no worries. We're sorry about the technological issues here, but I'm wondering if you just want to talk to us about some of these questions and just offer any reflections that you have. Does that work for you?
Yes, I have a couple of questions I asked him.
Sorry, Dr. Eugene, before you get started, this part is recorded. It still is live streamed, so just want to preface with that, just making sure you're okay with that. So it is recorded and all the other breakout rooms aren't. So just want to give you that information before you share with us.
Sure, no problem. The question that I have with the air and the emphasis is now being placed on electric vehicles, but we're noticing with the airport, Stockton Airport is used as a training facility for the military. It's also some of the airlines come in and do their training, as well as they have a couple of commercial flights out of the airport. What type of monitoring? I noticed you have one on El Dorado and Clay. What kind of monitoring? What kind of monitoring do you have out at the airport?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question, Dr. Eugene, and certainly something we can flag to ask the Air District. So I'm just jotting that down.
Because yes, there's a pathway on the south side of Stockton here of landing and taking off, particularly taking off from the airport. and as well as the train switching unit is quite busy. This is what the question that I had. And a couple of people have asked me if the society or the country move over to electric vehicles such as cars, will there be access to gasoline for any person that don't want to go electric?
Yeah. Those are really definitely important considerations, Dr. Eugene, and would encourage you to share some of those comments at another sort of quarterly monitoring update, or when we're also discussing things around the SERP implementation as they relate to electric vehicles. I know there's also a subcommittee focused on some of that work, so there might be interest in joining those conversations or hearing more about what they're sharing in those spaces as well. I was curious to learn from you, Dr. Eugene. I know that you joined in this year to be part of the CSC. What are some things that have worked really well for you, or that you would consider successes that the CSC has accomplished in this year, or just any highlights that you've experienced being part of this?
Well, I have experienced going to the port, which was a beautiful experience. Looking at the pollution reduction technology that they are implementing was quite interesting. Also, I participated in the air filter equipment apparatus that they sent out. It works well to be in the home. And at certain points for the last week, or a few days, a week or so, that I have been using it, it seemed to be quite well. I think also the meetings has been very informative. The ladies and gentlemen that have contributed have brought to the table items and information that we in the community need to hear and be aware of. So those are a few things that I've observed.
Thank you for sharing that with us. It sounds like you've done a lot of kind of learning and exploring, and a lot of hands-on work. That's very exciting to hear. We are going to close the rooms in just a minute, but if there's anything you'd share, like opportunities for growth, I would definitely encourage you to keep those in mind, and we'll have an additional opportunity to hear from everybody about recommendations too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your engagement and for being here.
Thank you.
It was great to chat with you.
You're welcome.
And welcome back to those who are joining. The rooms are closed, but there's a couple seconds of sort of transition, so hopefully folks will be in shortly.
Yeah, I think it looks like it's 52 seconds to go. So if you'd like to take this time and get some water, get a quick stretch in, this would be a good time to do so. Hi everyone, this is Laura again. Looks like mostly everyone is back. Hopefully we didn't lose anyone in the breakout rooms. Welcome back, and I agree, Jessica, time does fly, especially when you're super engaged in conversations and excited about all that's going on, even the challenges. Oh, looks like everyone is back. Gabby, can I get a confirmation from you?
Yeah, I think folks are back. We can go ahead and start.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thank you, everyone. I believe this is our first time engaging in a breakout room. So I do want to thank you all for your willingness and participating in that. I know sometimes it's a little difficult to step out of our comfort zones, especially with technology, because it can be a little tricky. So yeah, just want to extend my gratitude to you all for engaging in that participation. And hopefully there were some rich discussions in there. So as promised earlier, we'll be spending the next 5 minutes engaging with one another on what you all shared in your breakout rooms. And if you did pick a person to share out loud, if you could please either raise your hand or unmute yourself, that would be super appreciated. And Hector, I don't know if you were spokesperson for your group, but if you have anything to add here, totally welcome you to do so.
Sure. And then I think hopefully everybody picked or remembered what room they are. And did you just want to go by rooms? Start with 1 through, I'm not sure how many rooms there were, but I think that just in my room, we can start with me, room 2. So I don't know if we picked a spokesperson specifically, but I actually took some notes. So I think that kind of leaves me the spokesperson. So what worked well, what I've heard was that, again, me being new, a lot of this is just historical information from what you guys have gone through and done. So what I've heard was that the Air District seemed like they're very responsive, they were very involved, that there's feeling among a few residents that the Air District has done well so far, and that the subcommittees have been working effectively. That specifically, they mentioned the trees, that they're seeing some progress. And let's see, and there's still some progress that they see with some of the other subcommittees that they're involved in. So the work's grinding on. It's not where I've been in other subcommittees where, you're still in the talking stage after a year and there's really nothing that's really happened. So they feel that there is some progress there. So it's definitely worth their time. Do we want to go on with what could have worked better? And I think what could have worked better, they kind of felt that, with doing this 2.5 years, that they feel that they're a little behind, and maybe something could have helped out, maybe some more templates, some more guides to help them, guide their work instead of kind of working with scratch with the Air District. But they feel that, once they get more involved and get deeply involved and put something together that in the future things are going to work a lot faster and it'll be a lot more clear. They don't have to feel like they're inventing the wheel again. So they do see that as one of their barriers, that they feel that they should be a little further along, but sometimes, you know, change takes time. And then times of the day for the meetings that we're not sure whether it's the best time of the day for everyone to get involved, especially residents. Some residents, you know, limited because of their time, their jobs, their other commitments. So that what maybe could have been improved upon as far as maybe picking another day, another time that can get more community involvement. And I think that's about it. And I'll pass that back on to you, Laura.
Everyone, again, this is Laura. Thank you, Hector, for that reflection in your breakout room. We do have time for one other group to share during this portion. And as Gabby mentioned in the chat, there will be more opportunities to share reflections and your conversations. And I do see that Matt has their hand up, so I'll pass it off to Matt if that's okay.
Yeah, if it's okay. And SB or Stephanie, check me if something comes out that doesn't make sense. But SB and Stephanie and I were in a room. We talked about two measures. We talked about the small off-road engine, the lawnmower program. And that there was some controversy last week about it maybe encouraging excessive water use. And, you know, SB and I are kind of on the same page on this one, that this is a really great opportunity to make people aware of air pollution and get them engaged by incentivizing their participation in this process. And then I just wanted to share, I totally appreciate that sentiment and that we should be making our homes and communities more sustainable. And I will also add that the shortage of water in California is no one's fault here, and that we have a giant agricultural industry that's the greatest wealth creating region in all of human history that has been unable to distribute that wealth, and that they're the ones drinking up all the water. And so you shouldn't deprive yourself of a lawn just so we can ship pistachios to Iran and keep Iranian farmers poor. That's just a little editorializing. And so I would hope to revisit that item and encourage people to see it as a great way to incentivize and educate residents about the rest of our measures, including our heavy duty trucks measure, which, you know, is one of these things that's been lingering and is now running into a statutory, or I don't even know if it's a rule that makes a lot of these trucks ineligible for funding. And just two things about that, if most trucks around here are going to be ineligible for that funding, we need to figure out how to pull that trigger really quick and move that funding to the emission reduction or exposure reduction measures that we prioritize as alternates. But we did want to try to give it a college try and feel like that we owe it to ourselves to do something about heavy duty trucks, and that there are truck schools in the community who would be impacting us much less if they were driving around in all electric local haul trucks and charging them at new electric fast charging stations at their schools, and that would be an investment in local businesses that would also be preparing those schools for the future of trucks. And then I think the other thing about it is that there are a few residents around here that we should try to reach out to and try to spend some of that heavy duty trucks money. But if not, let's pull the trigger and move that money around to measures that we know we're happy with, that have approved plans, and that we can get to work on. And then just finally, you know, I feel like I spend a lot of time in this air quality space and I learn about rules all the time. But maybe somebody should have stopped us from approving a third of our SERP for a measure that's non-implementable. And I don't know if this policy was in the resolved column when we were signing off on this stuff in 2021. But I know that these policies take a long time, and maybe we could have been encouraged to allocate a smaller portion to a difficult to implement measure. And that's not a criticism, that's just, well, that's a criticism of maybe not the process, but no individuals here, because I think it was just such a tall order. And I think it goes back to, may go back to the difference between the mobile source regulating statewide air resources board and the stationary source regulating regional air district, sort of implementing a plan outside of historic core competencies. and that's a review for future 617 communities to consider. So got $10 million in heavy duty trucks. Let's try to do something with it. And hopefully some of that's trucks, but we shouldn't tie our hands on that.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing out loud. It seems like you and your group had a super deep discussion on that. So thank you for sharing with the rest of us. And at this time, I will pass it on to the Air District. They have put together an implementation planning presentation for 2023, and they'll be taking us through that at this time. And I do ask from you all to please keep in mind that we'll also be engaging in conversation as a group about some goal setting for 2023. So these two topics do go hand in hand. So keep that in the front of your mind as they are giving their presentation. So I will now pass it off to the Air District.
And to be clear, I just want to make sure I didn't skip it. We were only hearing from a couple of the groups, not all of the groups. Okay, just wanted to make sure. I know that some of our folks might have had something to share. So yeah, I continue to encourage you to put stuff in the chat. And so I really appreciate all of the reflections. We had such a great conversation, and I just really appreciate the sentiments that I heard so far. I'm going to share my screen and go ahead and present some updates. And what you'll see here are a couple of high-level updates, as well as some in-depth updates for a handful of measures, primarily with the goal of talking about how moving into 2023, we can be a little bit more strategic on what we want and what our goals are for the year. A lot of what I heard in my group and what we reflected on a bit is, I think, similar sentiments to what I heard out loud here just now, is that we are moving forward on a lot of things, but we're kind of on the precipice. We haven't quite implemented several measures. For example, there are a couple measures where there's RFPs pending, but we're about to execute, or we have applications in, and you'll hear kind of about each of those here in a second. And so in doing and thinking a little bit and hearing from some of you really throughout the past few months, we also reflected a little bit, I'm going to share my next slide now, on maybe what do we feel like there is a mix of maybe timing is what I just heard out loud. So maybe that's some of the reflection of some of these meetings, but also the frequency of some meetings. There was a time period there where there were several weeks where we had multiple subcommittee meetings and a CSC meeting. It kind of, for some folks that help prepare the information for these meetings, maybe didn't leave a lot of time for the work in between, and it was more about preparing for the upcoming meeting. And so in putting this together, everything that you see here is just a plan for upcoming meetings that have sort of a regular schedule to them, with the proposal, but certainly we're not locked into anything and we can take it month by month, to continue to do the work needed in these subcommittee meetings while potentially moving our CSC meetings to an every other month basis. Of course, in between, we would still send out those agenda or those digests that Stephanie sends out every month. We would still reflect on all of the notes, maybe in order, because these CSC meetings, which are evening, are moving. Maybe these subcommittee meetings can maybe now start at 4:30 or 5 a couple times, because we're not taking up your evening on certain months. Just some kind of concepts that we wanted to put together in looking ahead at 2023. I am going to maybe go through my next 2 slides, which is more of a reflection on where we stand with measures. And then I'm happy to take questions or comments on this, because it might help you understand kind of where we want to go with certain measures, or where we need to go to maybe understand the need for sort of the frequency and planning for meetings moving forward. So this is slightly different than what's posed, because in talking with some of you, I was reflecting on how do we communicate some of the measures moving forward. So if you're looking at the online version, we will post this version soon, but we did add a little bit more information in our discussion just now. But moving forward, and I'm just going to hide this. There we go. So in looking, there is a handful of things, and I think to a lot of your points, we are moving forward on a lot of things. These are all of the SERP measures that are incentives measures. So beyond all of the outreach and enforcement and regulatory measures that have been happening since day one, all of the incentives measures that are open for application and are moving forward in some fashion. So just really quickly, because of just time here and opening for questions, I'll just summarize that these first two measures, which are a big chunk of the CERP funding, are, we're going to call it almost funded, meaning we are working really closely with the folks that are taking advantage of this funding. And of course, with both of these, they're two large purchases. You've heard directly from us and directly from the school district about working to finish the application for the 10 electric buses. Nate Knott is a great advocate for us. He used to, of course, sit as a resident on our CSC. He is now the Director of Transportation at Stockton. So this is close, and we will continue to update you on school buses, rail car movers, and switchers. It's a big lift for someone to purchase these really large pieces of equipment. So it's taking some time and working with Central California Traction. We want to thank the Port who have helped us. The Port, a lot of you know, have a big clean air plan that they've worked on that Jeff updates a lot of us on, that a lot of you help implement and provide feedback on. A part of that is transitioning big units over to the cleanest available technologies, and that's what this will do. So again, something that's sort of on the list to almost be there, but isn't quite there, but we wanted to mention. We've also made some progress in residential wood burning and EV chargers. We added funding. You all voted at a couple meetings ago to increase the funding to make it more equitable so folks don't pay any out of pocket. And of course, this is sort of that time of year. We're continuing to do outreach, and we've met with hearth retailers and the outreach subcommittee on this item. Chargers, you just heard when Stephanie was updating to Margot's question, but we are working with the outreach committee to work with you all to identify other priority locations so we can communicate to the city and the county other places we want to deploy chargers. Urban greening and vegetative barriers, this is my friendly reminder to folks interested that will close on the 17th. And so that's another $2 million that we're hoping to get under contract very soon. And of course, depending on how many applications we get, we would then meet with the subcommittee to review and select a contractor. And we'd hope to do that by the beginning of next year. And then super happy to announce, and we will send a detailed email tomorrow, but we have finally gotten approval from CARB to launch a residential commercial lawn and garden. This is for only 50 residential mowers and a handful of commercial mowers. To Matt's point earlier, we did commit to potentially revisiting the funding conversation at a future meeting, and we're happy to work with you all at the agenda setting meetings to see if that's a conversation we want to have. So I wanted to highlight sort of the things that are ready, and they're here, and this is all the progress we've all made together. I also wanted to highlight a lot of the work and kind of go over sort of an implementation timeline, very high level, on several of the measures, many of which, as you know, we are working on with you in subcommittees. So I'm going to hold this up here for a little bit. Some of this might, we'll continue to update and we'll continue to change as things move forward. But as we've talked about several times, the car share program, we're continuing to work with the Housing Authority on that program, which is $1 million of your CERP. Residential air filtration is a really engaged group that we're really, really close. We feel like we're really close with, as Stephanie mentioned, and we announced, and I'll share the calendar once again after I finish here. We have a subcommittee to really talk about the final steps in getting a project plan and a full program launched within the next few months. So we're very excited about that. The truck reroute study is something that the Port has taken on, and we definitely want to talk a little bit. This might kind of be something that maybe isn't necessarily something we pay for the study any longer, but we move forward with the research that the Port contractor did and see how we can implement the next steps. And some of you who were at our regulatory and enforcement subcommittee meeting know really the challenges it seems like there have been with some of the truck routes. Truck replacement. To Matt's point, it is open. I do want to clarify, it is not at all a non-implementable measure for regular fleets or fleets that are already in compliance. But to Matt's point, when we are talking about those non-compliant fleets, typically we're talking about the maybe folks that are EJ community residents themselves, or folks that are underrepresented community members that then operate maybe a one-off truck that isn't in compliance, and that's going to run into that regulatory issue that you just mentioned, Matt. And so that's kind of, I think, where, to Matt's point, there is a need to continue working together on this particular measure and see how we can move forward. We had a great subcommittee meeting, and I really, really encourage you to talk with us about how we wanted to pursue a parallel path. So that's why there's two lines here. One that's it's open and folks can come take advantage, but also how do we work with small fleets, local business owners to assess the need for maybe pursuing a different path that's outside of what's currently allowed, which I appreciate from all of you who have participated in that. And then finally, these last three down here are measures that we want to move forward with really in the next couple of quarters. And they're really kind of the final few measures that we haven't really talked about, I think, with the committees. And so certainly, whether it's something that we convene a subcommittee or we bring project plans back to you, this is sort of our general timeline on doing that, knowing that we obviously have a lot of other work that's ongoing that we might prioritize ahead of that based on all of your interests. So I'm going to pause here, but I'd also like to go back to the timeline, or sorry, the calendar, if folks would like to review that really quickly. And like Stephanie said, she dropped it in the chat. None of the timeline has changed. I just added more context about the funding amounts. So if you wanted to peruse on your own, we will be updating this later tonight, so you can download the presentation I just gave. I'm going to really quickly pop over here because this might be of more interest. And maybe I'll just pause and reflect. I don't know if it's a show of hands or some comments in the chat just about the frequency, or I'll pause, back up really quickly. One thing we also heard, and that's reflected here, is making sure we have regular meeting times for committees, not just always kind of ad hoc meeting month by month finding dates. So that's also something we took into account. So that's something you'll see reflected here. That said, I just don't know if anyone has feedback for us. Does this general type of schedule work? Do you have thoughts on the frequency of meetings, whether those are subcommittees or CSC meetings? Or is this just a lot to take in, and do you want some time to think about it? Maybe we send an email soliciting thoughts. All of those are okay with us, and I'm happy to take any questions now. I do see Mary Elizabeth's hand.
I don't see the tree subcommittee.
Yeah. We do need to add that back on. So we've paused because the RFP has been open. So there's really been no need to establish, or, to meet while we're just waiting for folks to apply. We will have to schedule a meeting to go over the trees RFP. One of the things we would like to do, and there's a reason it hasn't been established here, is we are hoping that whoever applies would then, as part of their outreach, work with this group and be kind of lead that subcommittee effort. And so that's something that we're going to perhaps wait, if it's okay with folks, until we see who applies and see their availability, your availability, and then reschedule those meetings on a regular basis again. And then I'll pause. I see Debbie's hand. And I do think, just to help clarify, sorry, and I'm taking a few notes just while you're asking your question, Debbie, I do think there's a few like trees, of course, HABs, which is the harmful algal blooms, and then EV mechanic training. We're working with those co-leads on some next steps as we decide kind of the need for a next meeting. So that's why you don't see them reflected here quite yet. And sorry, go ahead, Debbie. And then
I just have, oh boy, I can't remember now. There was something I was going to say. Oh, about the CSC meetings. I don't know if we want to go 2 months. I can see maybe if we skip one, once a quarter. But going a full 2 months or, you know, like maybe skipping one because of whatever reason, there's too many meetings around that time or that week or something. But going too far in between might be too much at this point.
Okay.
I could see maybe we could revisit it in July.
Okay.
But at this point, I think it's probably too soon.
Okay. I'd like to take Margot's question, and then maybe I'll ask this general question, because first of all, we are super happy to support whatever you all feel is useful. So I'll maybe pose the question, are there folks that feel that there's not a better way to get the information that you feel you would like every month than having a meeting with all of us? So maybe I'll just pose that question because I love hearing that you feel the meetings are useful and helpful. So I hope folks, maybe we can see all of the comments here today, and maybe we'll pose this as maybe a poll question to the CSC so we can get all the perspectives, knowing we don't have time maybe for everyone, and knowing not everyone's on this call either. Go ahead, Margot.
Yeah, I had the same comment as Debbie. I was a little concerned to see that the thought was towards every other month. We're a very large committee, and I go to quite a few of the subcommittees because I'm fortunate to be able to. However, many people don't and can't. And, this is the one place where we pool all the thoughts on an ongoing basis. And yeah, sometimes it's repetitive, but not too often. Yeah. And I think Debbie's idea of every now and then, if there's a need to skip a month, that's understandable. But we just don't see each other. We hardly know each other still. And it breaks my heart that we hardly know each other. But this is where we are.
These are super helpful thoughts. And honestly, maybe I promise this wasn't just to boost our ego, but it is helpful to think that these meetings are useful for folks, right? And not that we don't find them useful. And I agree with Margot. I had just the best time in my breakout group. I can't even tell you. So maybe, to that end, we are at the very least proposing not having a December meeting. But maybe to that end, unless there are major objections, I wonder if we revisit in June, because July tends to fall around July 4th for this group. So maybe we revisit in June our sort of next few meetings afterward. And until then, meet monthly, starting back up, knowing we'll skip December. So then we'll do January through June as a monthly meeting. Is that something, are there any main objections to that? And then to that end, I also maybe in between, maybe we figure out a time to do an in-person meeting if we can find maybe a space and a time that works for folks, and really an objective during that meeting that in person is the way to do it. So I don't see major objections. I don't know if Laura or Gabby, you hear anything. So what we'll do is we'll amend our schedule to still not have one this December. January through June, we'll have our monthly meetings. And then we'll kind of reflect starting in June, if there's a need to skip. But I just so appreciate the thought and the reflection. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think I can pass it back to you, Gabby.
Thank you. I'm actually going to hand it over to Laura to wrap us up with a quick activity, and just noting that our time, there's been a lot of engaging discussion throughout, so we're a little bit shorter on time for this next portion. We still see value in it, and so Laura will explain a little bit about how we're adapting in real time to be flexible, because there's still a couple of things we want to cover.
Everyone, this is Laura again. Thank you, Jess, for that presentation, and Gabby for prefacing us with our limited time. And yeah, super thankful to you all for engaging in discussions and asking questions. So for this portion of the meeting, we did want to introduce you all to Jamboard, and I'll go ahead and share my screen with you all. So in this Jamboard, we wanted to have an engaged discussion and just conversation. Discussion and conversation are the same thing, but you all know what I mean. And I think, Gabby, can you link the Jamboard in the chat if you haven't done so? I'm sorry, It's hard to see Zoom. Yeah, so having goals and opportunities for 2023, and I think it's a great way to pivot from, excuse me, Jess's conversation of the different planning measures that there are. So here we can place a sticky note. It's on the left side, and there's this little sticky icon, and you place it. You can choose your color, and then you type something on here. So I'll just type my name, and you save it, and that's how you create a sticky note on here. So we did want to spend originally 10-15 minutes with you all, but because we are short on time, if we want to do this individually and independently, we can, and then we can come back as a group in January and possibly share some findings. Not that we're analyzing, but just, you know, things that we saw were a common thread between you all. And yeah, if you need some support, or if you'd like to type it in the chat instead and have either Gabby or myself or the Air District type it on there, we are so happy to do that. Just anything that works for you all works for us. And again, extending my gratitude for you all for engaging in the Zoom breakout rooms and in this Jamboard that are new platforms or ways of using these platforms. So if we want to take maybe 2 minutes to write some goals and opportunities on here, and then come back together and we can go to the next agenda topic. Can I get a thumbs up? Or I can't see everyone because we're like spotlighted.
Thank you, Laura. This is Gabby. I'm just chiming in here. I think I'm seeing a lot of folks joining anonymously, so thank you for doing that. Yeah, this Jamboard will stay open indefinitely. Just make sure you do not click this button that says clear frame, because that would erase everybody's work on there. But other than that, please continue to add your ideas onto here as you feel comfortable, and really as it relates to the conversation you had about what's working, what's not working, right? Like really thinking through opportunities to change things depending on that. And we can continue, we can add this as an action item, include the link so that it can be part of the follow-up that gets shared with you. And in addition, we can provide a reminder at our next agenda setting meeting together. So thank you all for being flexible around that. We really appreciate you. I also just wanted to extend my gratitude to folks who were able to share a couple updates in the chat. That's really helpful, and we're jotting some of those ideas down and those reflections. So very grateful for that as well. We do have a couple of updates, a couple standing updates. So I'm going to hand it off first to Stephanie to provide us some subcommittee updates.
Thanks so much, Gabby. And my update will be really quick. I sent out an email a few days ago that just listed off, we have 4 subcommittees for the remainder of the year. And I'm just going to go ahead and drop them into the chat, but I'll verbalize it too. We have heavy duty trucks on Thursday, November 17th. Indoor air and weatherization on November 27th. Regulatory and enforcement on Thursday, December 8th. And then outreach on Friday, December 9th. So if anyone didn't get the invitations for this, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm just going to drop this information into the chat for folks to take a look at.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is Gabby. So those will be the subcommittee updates for this month. We have a brief presentation from SJOG. GOC. I think it's missing something in there. So just going to hand it over for that update next.
Hi everyone. I'm Christine Tran from SJCOG, so San Joaquin Council of Governments. I'll share my screen real quick and I'll go through this pretty quickly. I know we're short on time. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. I'm here to talk about the unmet transit needs assessment. It looks like the word unmet was kind of erased, but unmet transit needs. I'm here to talk about fiscal year 23-24. I know we're currently in 22-23, but the purpose of this is to kind of collect public comment, and it will be analyzed and implemented in the following fiscal year. So I just wanted to clarify that for the group. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, the unmet transit needs is an assessment overview, and the San Joaquin Council of Governments, we are a metropolitan organization. So we are collecting public comments from the public, as I mentioned. And so we do this before our Transportation Development Act funds are allocated for other non-transit uses such as streets and roads. So to meet this requirement, SJCOG conducts an annual UTN assessment, and it'll ensure unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet are identified and met. And to define what unmet transit needs is, it's transportation services that are not currently provided to those residents who use or would use public transportation regularly if available to meet their life expectations. And this can be for like if you ride the bus, let's say you want to go to a doctor's appointment and the bus is scheduled for a time that's not the same time as your doctor's appointment. So that's inconvenient for you, or just like your job or whatever it may be. So anything that's anything that's unmet for you can be a public comment you can submit to us. After we receive these comments, we do go through a criteria, and this is what we'll go through to determine whether it'll go forward to the next step or not. And it goes through community acceptance, equity, potential ridership, cost effectiveness, operational feasibility, and funding. So we take all of these 6 criteria into consideration with each comment that we receive. And so there's a whole committee that we have to go through these public comments. In efforts of getting the community to know about the UTN. So we've been doing public hearings, presentations like I'm doing right now, social media posts, and surveys. And surveys are the ones that we utilize the most for the public comments. There are other ways to submit them, but surveys tend to be the easiest way to collect them. So here is where it'll bring you to the survey. If you have a smartphone to use, you can scan it here. If not, I can also drop the link in the chat box. So yeah, there's about 10 to 15 questions. It's not too long. The first few questions are mainly to get to know you. So yeah, anything that's not currently being met with transit can be submitted through here. So I'll also include my email in the chat box for you to contact me with any other questions. Thank you.
This is Gabby. Thank you, Christine. Do we have any questions for Christine on her presentation? I'm checking the chat. I didn't see anything. And just taking a look at participants. All right. It seems like there's no questions at this time. Oh, Espe, would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation, Christine. And I just wanted to ask, in terms of getting the information out to the public, maybe I didn't see this part of it because we were looking at what like Nate had put about all the electric buses in the chat, but was there like a deadline that you had for it? One, and then did you need additional assistance in pushing this out to you know, our listservs or what have you?
Thank you so much for asking that. I made a note to mention this, but the deadline for this one would be December 31st of this year. So the end of the calendar year is when we'll be taking the comments for fiscal year 23-24. But you can send them in year round. Well, whenever you send it in is when we'll kind of group it upon the fiscal year. But yeah, for the following one that we're going to assess is going to be the end of this year.
Thank you.
And your second question, yes, I would love for you to send out any
I have
info
another
to your group as well.
I have another question.
Go for it, Debbie.
Okay. And muted. There we
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I had to take a quick phone call. What was this topic? The original topic, was it transient?
So unmet transit needs. So anything from the public where you're not, let's say like a route isn't scheduled at a time that you need.
Transit.
Yeah.
Transit.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were talking, I'm thinking, what does homeless people have to do with it? Okay.
Sorry, I was
got it.
stating through this.
I
Thank
got
you.
it now. Okay, transit. Okay. Yeah, I know a couple. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. This is Gabby and Christine. There's also a question from Matt. Are you able to share a copy of the presentation as part of the follow-up after this meeting?
Yes. I can send it to, Gabby, do you want me to send it to you to forward it to the group, or?
Yeah, you can definitely send it over to Stephanie from the Air District, and then she can forward it as part of the follow-up.
Okay, sounds good.
And this is Stephanie. Christine, if you want to go ahead and send a presentation and like a little blurb out again, we can go ahead and push this forward to the CSC once more, just as a reminder.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine, for that presentation and for being willing to share those materials afterward. We want to make space for any additional updates from CARB at this time, if there's anything to share. I don't know, Hanjiro, if there's anything you want to share.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything else to share. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. I believe the Port of Stockton is not present here today. Anything else from the Air District, additional announcements you'd like to share at this time? Sounds good. Okay. So at this point, I'm happy to wrap us up. Just sort of sharing, there's actually quite a few action items today. And so just wrapping us up with that and then making some space for public comment. So again, just want to really express my gratitude to you all for engaging month after month in these conversations in this space. We're very grateful for your contributions, and especially grateful that we had that reflective opportunity today, and look forward to hearing more from all of you around that. And so with that, I'm going to walk us through the action items from today's meeting and then provide a couple updates on some upcoming touch points available for one another. So the first action item is that the Air District will be following up with CARB to learn more about how the air monitoring data are being used. And similarly, folks at CARB mentioned that they're going to do some outreach within their agency, and they're going to be reaching back out to the CSC. So kind of from two touch points, we'll be getting an update around that. Additionally, related to air monitoring, the Air District will be conducting analysis of those data to share daily peaks. At a future agenda setting meeting, the Air District will solicit interest in an agenda topic related to state implementation planning updates, either for a CSC meeting or a regulatory enforcement subcommittee meeting. The CSC and the Air District are going to revisit meeting frequency in June and identify opportunities for in-person meetings in 2023, per the conversation earlier. CSC members are going to add reflections to the Jamboard around opportunities and goals for 2023. Apologies for this typo. And the Air District will share the link as part of the post-meeting follow-up. And then finally, Christine is going to send a copy of the SJ-COG presentation to Stephanie, and then Stephanie will share that via email, including information about how you can further disseminate what is being shared. Any amendments, adjustments, or anything I missed in terms of the action items here. All right. Okay, so our next touch points, we have an agenda setting meeting scheduled on our usual sort of calendar rotation. So it'll happen next Thursday, November 10th at 3 p.m. And we really look forward to seeing you all there. As a reminder, we're skipping the December meeting in recognition of how busy folks are and everything else going on. But we do hope to hear from you all next week at the agenda setting meeting to really determine where we go starting January with these meetings. And so really hoping to gather your input at those meetings and hear more about what you're interested in focusing on for January. And with that, our first CSC meeting of 2023 will happen Wednesday, January 4th at 5 p.m. on our usual sort of calendar schedule. Just checking to see if there's any comments here. Okay. Noting there's some issues that Debbie has noted with Jamboard. So I want to just in real time offer an additional solution that we can share those questions in addition to the Jamboard link. So if you want to just respond to the questions via email, we can kind of bring everything in, however you feel comfortable in engaging with us. And if you have the time and capacity to do so, there's no expectation for folks to respond to those. So we'll coordinate with Stephanie to provide those options. All right, with that, I just want to remind any folks who haven't submitted W-9 forms to set up the direct deposit to please coordinate with us to do that. This really allows for a very smooth stipend distribution process on our end. And before we move on to any public comments, I'm just going to open it up since we have a few minutes, just about a minute or two, to see if there's anyone here part of the CSC who has community and announcements or events or exciting news that you would like your colleagues to know about. All right. I also just want to make space. Once again, thank Hector for stepping in and supporting us this month. It was so great to plan this with you. And if there's anything, other reflections that you'd like to share with the CSC at this time, definitely opening up the space for you.
Well, first of all, like you said, thank you guys all for the opportunity to be part of this and to help co-facilitate this. I think it's really important that we stay involved, and having CBOs help lead these types of meetings is super important. It's just, it shows that, you know, overall we're trying to make change from the ground up. But thank you again.
Thank you, Hector. And Margot, did you want to share something as well?
I did. This is November. That means we're not meeting next month. That means it's the holiday season. And I just want to wish everybody very good holidays. And I appreciate that this meeting was geared towards looking to the next year, because next year is going to be a lot of hard work, I think. That's all.
Thank you, Margot, for that. I'm wishing you a happy holiday season as well. And just for sharing that feedback with us. We're glad that resonated with you and with others in terms of that reflective opportunity. Well, with that, I'm going to open it up for any public comments at this time too. And while I'm doing that, just wanted to kind of share that if anybody participating here today is potentially interested in supporting as a community co-host for January, to let us know either in this space, via email at the agenda setting meeting. We really enjoy collaborating with you all to design the structure of these conversations, and we hope that if you're interested that you let us know so that we can coordinate that process. All right, I'm going to take a quick look at the comments that I'm getting here and just look to my colleague Laura to see if we have any public comments on YouTube, or Heather, if you're monitoring that too, just wanting to confirm. No public comments at this time. All right. Well, thank you all so much for for being here and wishing you a safe and happy holiday season and just a rest of your year, really. And we really look forward to meeting with you next week if you're able to join, and then reconvening these CSC meetings in January. So thank you and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
Monique and Mark.
Happy holidays.
Yep. Thank you.
Guys, bye.
Happy holiday.
Bye.
Just
Thanks,
because
everyone.
we're not having a meeting in December, you can send us a Christmas stipends.
Give us a McDonald's Christmas card, gift card.
Yeah.
Peace,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Be blessed, be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I just end it, will it end the recording?
Oh, I think you click on YouTube and say end streaming.